A series of photographs has reignited a royal scandal that shows no signs of fading. Among them are images said to depict Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell at Balmoral and Buckingham Palace. Not just casual visits, but appearances in symbolically loaded spaces like the throne room. The implication of access, trust, and proximity to Prince Andrew has deepened public suspicion and royal anxiety.
If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update.
What once felt like whispers of association now looks disturbingly like familiarity. These photos don't just raise eyebrows. They sparked a quiet panic inside the palace walls. This isn't just about optics, it's about containment. With every new release, whether it's a photo, document, or unsealed file, the monarchy is pushed deeper into crisis mode. Prince Andrew's exile is no longer interpreted as punishment, but as a firewall. The goal is to limit the blast radius should more emerge, and by all indications, more is coming. Andrew's deteriorating mental health is now part of the equation, with sources suggesting the palace has placed him under watch. This is no longer a scandal unfolding in public. It's a crisis managed in shadows. Prince Andrew is now living inside the long shadow of a scandal that never stops moving. Every new document, every resurfaced image, every legal disclosure tied to Jeffrey Epstein lands back on him with renewed force. What once existed as denials and damage control has hardened into a permanent state of crisis. His reputation is not just damaged, it is fundamentally altered. Inside royal circles, the concern is no longer how to rehabilitate him, but how to manage the consequences of what may still come. Reports describe Andrew as increasingly withdrawn, both physically and psychologically. This is not a man quietly waiting for public attention to pass. This is someone described as isolated, monitored, and under what insiders quietly call a form of royal watch. The phrase "prepare for the worst" has entered the conversation behind palace walls, not as a dramatic flourish, but as a working assumption. The concern is not abstract. The concern is that more material connected to Epstein is still emerging from the United States, and that Andrew's name, image, or presence could be further implicated. The pressure has not eased with time. It has intensified, and as each new disclosure lands, the sense is that Andrew's ability to cope is being tested in real time.
If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update.
Jeffrey Epstein remains a gravitational center of this entire crisis. Even after his death, the flow of documents, images, and records connected to his movements and associations continues to reshape the fallout. What has changed is the specificity. This is no longer just about who Epstein knew. It is about where he went and who allowed him access. Recent revelations point to images and documentation tying Epstein to some of the most sensitive and symbolically important locations connected to the British monarchy. These are not casual backdrops. These are places tied to power, tradition, and national identity. And the idea that Epstein may have been present in them has fundamentally escalated the seriousness of the situation. For Prince Andrew, this is devastating. Epstein is no longer a distant association he can attempt to explain away. Epstein's presence now appears woven into spaces that reflect royal proximity and trust. Each new release reinforces a perception that Andrew's relationship with Epstein was not peripheral, but deeply embedded, and that perception is doing lasting. Ghislaine Maxwell's role in these revelations adds another layer of intensity. Her presence alongside Epstein in images and documents connected to royal residences sharpens the scrutiny. Maxwell is not a neutral figure. She is inseparable from Epstein's operations and from the wider allegations that surround him. Reports that Maxwell, alongside Epstein, appeared in photographs taken within royal settings have heightened alarm inside the palace. These are not images that can be dismissed as social happenstance. They suggest access. They suggest familiarity. And they raise uncomfortable questions about who was present, who knew, and who approved. For the royal household, Maxwell's inclusion deepens a sense that the scandal has not yet finished unfolding. It reinforces a fear that what has already surfaced may only be part of a larger archive of material still waiting to be disclosed. That uncertainty is driving strategy now, not optimism. Buckingham Palace sits at the heart of the monarchy's public image, and that is precisely why reports involving Epstein and Maxwell's presence there are so damaging. Images tied to spaces within the palace, including highly symbolic rooms, strike at the core of royal credibility. These are locations associated with ceremony, continuity, and authority. The suggestion that Epstein accessed these spaces reframes the scandal entirely. This is no longer just about Andrew's personal judgment. It becomes an institutional concern. It raises questions about vetting, security, and oversight within the royal household itself. Internally, the response has been swift and cold. The palace is focused on distance and containment. Andrew's connection to official royal life has been deliberately severed, not gradually, but decisively. The aim is clear: isolate the risk before it spreads further. Buckingham Palace, as a symbol, cannot be allowed to absorb more damage than it already has. Royal Lodge has become the physical embodiment of Andrew's isolation. Once a royal residence tied to status and privilege, it now represents retreat. Andrew's presence there is not framed as quiet dignity, but as withdrawal under pressure. He is largely removed from public view, separated from the operational heart of the monarchy. Insiders describe this isolation as intentional. It limits exposure, it minimizes risk, and it allows the institution to keep Andrew out of sight as new revelations continue to surface elsewhere. The reports of his mental strain give this strategy a sharper edge. Monitoring is not only about public optics, it is about preventing complete collapse. Royal Lodge is no longer just where Andrew lives. It is where the consequences of years of association with Epstein have landed. Each new disclosure tightens at confinement, both physically and psychologically. For the wider UK royal family, this situation had become a prolonged exercise in damage control. The strategy is not defense. It is containment. The goal is to protect the institution, even if that means fully sacrificing one of its own members from public life. Andrew's removal from official duties was not reactive. It was calculated. Insiders suggest it was driven by what the family believed was still coming, not just what had already been revealed. That distinction matters. It explains the urgency and the finality of the decision. The ongoing release of documents from the United States has kept the family in a constant state of readiness. Every new file is treated as potential escalation. The uncertainty is corrosive, and it has reshaped how the royal family operates behind closed. King Charles now presides over monarchy, carrying this unresolved burden. While he is not personally tied to Epstein, he inherits the responsibility of managing the fallout. The decision to maintain distance from Andrew reflects a broader institutional priority: survival of the monarchy's credibility. There is no visible effort to rehabilitate Andrew's image. There is no pathway back. The focus is on stability, on preventing further erosion of public trust. That approach acknowledges a difficult reality. The Epstein scandal has permanently altered Andrew's place within the royal family. As more material continues to surface, the question remains unresolved. Has the worst already emerged, or is there still more waiting to be revealed? For Andrew, the uncertainty is constant. For the monarchy, it is a test of resilience. And for the public, it is a reminder that the story is not finished. If you want to stay informed as the situation continues to unfold, take a moment to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for ongoing coverage as more developments emerge. Prince Andrew's public image is now defined by absence. He has gone from center stage at royal ceremonies to someone rarely seen outside the gates of his secluded estate. This isn't retirement, it's exile. When he does appear, the body language is unmistakable. Head down, shoulders heavy, expression vacant. The sense of consequence is written all over him. There's been no royal birthday greetings posted for him on social media. No photos released of family gatherings where he is casually included in the frame. These omissions are intentional. They speak louder than statements ever could. He is not just sidelined, he is being erased. And this shift didn't happen gradually. It followed a sharp internal pivot, as the royal family moved from defending Andrew to quietly preparing for a scenario where his presence could cause even more reputational harm. His downfall isn't a story that happened in the past. It's still playing out, week by week. Jeffrey Epstein remains a permanent fixture in Andrew's story. Every new document or photograph that ties Epstein more closely to royal spaces automatically circles back to Andrew. The power of these visuals isn't just in who they show, but where. It's one thing to be seen with a known predator. It's another to be seen welcoming them into the halls of monarchy. The throne room photos hit hardest. The fact that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were allegedly captured in one of the most revered royal spaces doesn't just raise eyebrows, it sets off alarms. These are rooms steeped in ceremony and authority, now shadowed by association with scandal. It's no longer just about who Epstein knew, it's about where he was allowed to go. That's the part that rattles the institution. And Andrew, as the one with the deepest connection to Epstein inside the royal family, is now the figure around which the crisis keeps circling. The royal family's silence on Andrew is not passive. It's part of a controlled, deliberate effort to shield the crown. The family isn't waiting to see what happens. They're already operating like the worst might still come. That's why there's been no movement to reintegrate him. That's why every public-facing royal event is carefully curated without his presence. This strategy is consistent. Restrict Andrew's exposure, control the narrative, and preserve the monarchy's image at any cost. And for now, that means pretending like he's not even there. But internally, they know he is, and that reality is becoming more precarious. Sources close to the family describe an atmosphere of sustained tension. There's anxiety that something else could drop, documents, photos, a video. The silence isn't confidence. It's Maxwell's name continues to appear in every batch of emerging material. She's no longer a background player in the scandal. She's central. The fact that she accompanied Epstein during visits to royal residences makes her presence all the more significant. Every image of her in those contexts raises the stake for Andrew. And the optics are damning. These are not just people he casually met. These were guests, repeat visitors, people who appeared to move freely through spaces reserved for the most trusted associates of the monarchy. That implication is why Andrew had been permanently removed from public duty. It's not just about past associations. It's about what those associations say about access and judgment. And if more photos exist, as some reports suggest, the scandal could deepen in ways even the palace can't control. The connection to Buckingham Palace is what transformed this from personal disgrace to institutional alarm. There is no more sacred or high-profile royal space than the palace itself. And the idea that Epstein and Maxwell may have been photographed there, not just visiting, but inside key ceremonial rooms, is what sent shockwaves through the system. These aren't rooms you stumble into. You don't get throne room access without an invite. That's what makes the reported images so devastating. They suggest that Epstein wasn't just tolerated. He was welcomed. And with that comes questions the institution doesn't want asked. Who approved those visits? Who else was present? What vetting procedures failed? These aren't just public relations problems. They are breaches of trust. Andrew's decision to maintain a relationship with Epstein after his conviction is a choice that continues to haunt him. That single decision rewrote his legacy. It unraveled public goodwill, stripped away titles, and put him at the center of one of the most toxic scandals a monarchy has ever faced. There's no way to explain it away now. The damage is complete. Every public move is scrutinized. Every press release is examined for coded language. And even silence is read as strategy. As the legal disclosures continue to unfold in the U.S., Andrew's name remains in circulation. He's no longer just a royal with bad judgment. He's a royal tethered to a global criminal case. And the fact that new material continues to surface keeps a connection alive. No matter how far the family tries to push him, Andrew's life is now defined by limitation. Sources describe him as depressed, withdrawn, and frequently unwell. There's no star parade, no polished public appearances. He spends most days out of sight. And there's growing concern behind the scenes about how far he might unravel. There are reports that a form of quiet monitoring has been implemented. Not a medical team, not a security risk, but a discreet, behind-the-scenes watch meant to keep tabs on his mental health. He is reportedly not considered a danger to others, but the fear is that the pressure could push him to a breaking point. It's a grim tone for someone who once represented the second generation of royal strength. Now, he's living in semi-isolation under gentle surveillance, as his former life evaporates one scandal at a time. The Epstein case isn't just something Andrew is associated with. It's a core reason he is no longer a functioning royal. The details may evolve with each new leak, but the damage has already been done. Titles, patronages, ceremonial roles, all gone. Not paused, not temporarily reassigned. Stripped, his military affiliations were particularly painful to watch unravel. Once proud to wear the uniform and represent regiments, those connections were publicly severed. Veterans groups even voiced frustration over the delay in removing him. It wasn't just the public losing confidence. People inside the institution were growing impatient too. The key point here is that the removal was not about presumption of guilt. It was about public optics and institutional integrity. The firm, as the royal machine is often called, made its move once it realized the story wasn't going away. The risk to the monarchy's reputation outweighed any familial allegiance. Behind closed doors, the royal family operates like a business. And in a business, when one member becomes a liability, decisions aren't emotional, they're operational. That's what happened here. They didn't wait for legal convictions. They acted based on what was already visible: photos, timelines, associations, and media scrutiny. The firm knew it couldn't gamble its legacy on uncertainty. So the calculation was cold but necessary. Andrew had to be removed from the spotlight. That meant no balcony appearances, no state events, no participation in royal milestones. Even family moments, funerals, jubilees, coronations, have been stage-managed to reduce his visibility. When he does appear, it's quiet, short, and heavily choreographed. It's damage control in real time, and it tells you everything about how seriously the institution is taking the threat of further revelations. Every time Epstein's name trends again, Andrew's name comes with it. The legal system in the U.S. keeps the scandal alive, drip by drip. And because Epstein's crimes were so widespread, every new victim, every court unseal, every investigative release risks pulling Andrew back into the spotlight, even if indirectly. That's why the royal household treats every disclosure like a fire alarm. They don't know what will come next. Will it be a never-before-seen guest log from a royal estate? Another photo from a palace corridor? A handwritten note? Even if the documents don't implicate Andrew directly in crimes, the association alone is radioactive. And that's the problem. The institution cannot afford to keep defending someone tied, even reputationally, to one of the worst criminal scandals in recent memory. Charles is not just a father in this equation. He is now the reigning monarch, and his responsibility isn't to Andrew, it's to the crown. His actions reflect that. Since ascending the throne, there's been no indication that he plans to reverse the firm stance on Andrew. No hints of redemption. No signs of second chances. Sources close to the palace say Charles has accepted that Andrew's role is finished. Not just paused. Finished. His job now is protecting the institution, especially in an era where the monarchy is being re-evaluated by the public and the press more than ever before. That makes Andrew not just a scandal, he's a risk factor. Every association is potential collateral. And Charles, raised in the machinery of monarchy, is well aware of the dangers of sentimentality in leadership. If protecting the throne means sidelining his brother permanently, so be it. Ghislaine Maxwell's trial made everything worse. Not only did it confirm long-standing suspicions, it created a media frenzy that kept Andrew's name alive in the background. Her conviction reactivated questions about Andrew's role, and suddenly the timeline of visits, trips, and photos was being re-examined with fresh urgency. One of the most damaging things about her trial wasn't even what was proven. It was what remained unspoken. Her silence on certain topics left open-ended questions. And when silence surrounds a scandal, people fill in the blanks. Public opinion doesn't wait for legal precision. It runs on perception, and Andrew's perception is in ruins. The idea that Maxwell and Epstein had the access they did, and that Andrew maintained those ties after Epstein's conviction, has permanently cemented him in the public's mind as someone who made catastrophic errors in judgment. The man who once represented Britain on the global stage has become a symbol of how fast reputation can collapse. 1 minute he's shaking hands with diplomats. The next, he's giving a train wreck interview on national television trying to explain why he doesn't sweat. His BBC interview with Emily Maitlis was supposed to be his turning point, the moment he could clear the air. Instead, it was a final nail. His lack of remorse, strange justifications, and arrogant tone turned even the most neutral observers against him. That moment didn't just destroy his public relations strategy. It made the palace realize there was no saving this. Public sympathy dried up overnight. The fallout was immediate and irreversible. And since then, he hasn't been trusted to speak publicly in any capacity. Royal Lodge is quiet now, but it's not peaceful. It's a gilded cage for a man whose world has closed in. People close to Andrew say he barely leaves, avoids the press, and is in no condition to re-enter public life. Even private family interactions are reportedly strained, with most royals keeping their distance. The concern isn't just about headlines anymore. It's about what happens next if the pressure keeps building. There have been whispers of mental health check-ins, not out of punishment, but out of fear that the isolation and disgrace might lead to darker outcomes. That's why the phrase "prepare for the worst" keeps surfacing. It's not just about future documents or footage. It's about what Andrew might do as the walls keep closing in. When someone goes from privilege to pariah in full public view, there's no guidebook for recovery. And in this case, there's no clear path out. If you've been following the chaos and want to keep up as this story develops, be sure to like the video, subscribe for more updates, and leave your take in the comments below. This isn't just a scandal, it's a reckoning. Andrew's fall from grace isn't tabloid drama anymore. It's a case study in how unchecked privilege, poor judgment, and damning associations can dismantle a lifetime of entitlement. And there's no spin strategy left. No media consultant can reverse what's been burned into public consciousness. The Epstein case didn't just destroy Andrew's career. It rewrote how the public sees the institution he came from. He is now a permanent footnote in the biggest royal crisis since Diana's era. Except this time, it's not sympathy drawing headlines. It's disgust, disbelief, and a growing sense that the worst may still be ahead. What's chilling is how unresolved it all feels. The documents keep coming. Names are still being redacted and then unredacted. More images are teased in legal circles and media briefings. And the palace? Silent, measured, as if they already know what's still out there. Inside the royal fold, there's no appetite for taking risks anymore. The strategy is minimal exposure, maximum control. Andrew isn't just a PR crisis. They treat him like an open wound they can't let get infected again. He may still have a roof over his head, but he no longer has a place at the royal table. The institution is bracing for legacy damage, because when the history books are written, Andrew's chapter won't be about military honors or royal tours. It'll be about how one man's choices became a virus in the bloodstream of a centuries-old institution. And whether this moment represents a climax or just the next tremor before the real collapse, one thing is certain: this story isn't finished. It's paused, waiting, ready to resume the second the next file is unsealed. If you're following the fallout and want the latest every time the story turns, go ahead and like the video, share it with someone following the headlines, drop your thought in the comments, and subscribe for more breakdowns as this crisis keeps unfolding.